We are live. Hello, everybody. What do you say, gang? Thanks for watching. It is the American Doofus Show. Don't be a doofus. If you'd like to contribute to help the show keep going, it's at the Cashapp $ American Doofus, all one word, AMERICANDUFUS, all one word. And if you'd like to email the show, it's American Doofus, AMERICANDUFUS at gmail.com. And a couple of emails went into spam that I didn't realize had, and I need to apologize for that because it looked like I ignored a couple of people when that was far and away not the intention. So thank you all for watching. It is again, we are live. It's an open forum. If there's something you want discussed, you can come on if our setups are compatible. You can join me, or you can leave something in the comments, and we will talk about it. I want to talk a little bit to start out with about the past couple of episodes. Yesterday's episode was with our friend Chris, security and terrorism expert, has his own security company, international security company, and joins us on here. He's been on here many times, and we're grateful each and every time he comes on because we learn things, and he has an experience and a skill set and a contact Rolodex, if you will. That's an old term. A lot of people may not even know what a Rolodex is. But he has, we stay in contact because of our concerns for the peace and safety of people, and our concerns for world events. So if you haven't seen that episode, go back and watch it. I think it's about, 25 to 30 minutes long, but a lot of things in there and a lot of concerns in there. And then we go back to last week. Summer Dickerson joined us last week, and an episode that, again, I think everybody should watch, just like last night's episode on what's really going on in the world and how economics controls things. The episode with Summer was about human trafficking and how economics controls things. So both of those episodes, if you haven't seen them, go back and check them out. My latest novel is out. It's available. At the moment, it's only available through Amazon. It's not like the other two. The other two you can get through Barnes and Noble and various other bookstores. This one hasn't reached that level yet, but it is available in Kindle for, I think, $2.99, and it's available in paperback. I think it's still on sale for like $17, $19, something like that. So, and I'll put a link in the description at the after this live is published. So, some things that are happening in the news that I wanted to mention, if anybody didn't have any specific thing that was a burning issue they wanted to talk about. So we'll start out with, we have an open seat on the Supreme Court of the United States of America, and campaign promises are something that candidates do, especially to try to move a large block of voters. And President Biden, in his campaign, promised that he would nominate, in his words, an African American woman to the Supreme Court. And I'm all in favor of it, but immediately, as soon as I was reminded that that's what he had said when Justice Breyer announced he was going to resign, going to retire. Um, Immediately, I thought, "Oh my gosh, this is really bad timing." Um, just from a safety standpoint, not from a social or justice standpoint, just from a safety standpoint of the volatility in our country. Um, a lot of people are not going to be happy that a woman, and then a woman that is a member of the Black community, um, is being even considered, let alone nominated or um, confirmed to take the seat on the bench. Three steps that could trigger, just because when you look at the white supremacist movement, the far right wing, the fascist, whatever terms you want to use, they don't want a woman in power, and they don't want a Black male in power. So the last thing they're going to want in power is a Black female. So things are going to get tense over this nomination. That's just the way it is in our country. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, is what I'm saying. Okay, I think a woman of color, a member of the Black community that happens to be female, that is qualified. I think it's way past time that they be considered for the court. That's just my personal opinion. That's an opinion. And that was my opinion. It doesn't mean it has to be your opinion. That's not what we do on this. We don't, I don't, but there are some things that you just got to say, the right thing is, and the only reason I bring it up is because right before I came on, an article popped up on CNN that said Republicans say just being an African American woman is not enough to be considered. Okay. In other words, they've got to be an incredibly exceptional, not, and who's to determine all those things. So it's it's going to become a tense situation. It's not at the moment. All right. And our country's very, now based, I want it now. Drive through. I don't want to sit for 3 minutes. When I pull up and pay, and I pull up, I want my food. I want it hot. I want it fresh. That's our country. That's our society. And so when I say tensions are going to start boiling, I don't mean it's going to start necessarily tomorrow, but this will be a 6 week to probably 2 month process of trying to confirm someone for this seat. And the harder the push becomes for a woman that is a member of the Black community, the harder the push back against that is going to be, and that's just going to create tension. And I'm just bringing it up so we're prepared for it. Okay. Somebody had emailed me and said, again, I apologize if I haven't acknowledged some emails. A couple went into spam, and I didn't anticipate anything going into spam, and I apologize. It made it look like I ignored some people, and that's not the case. Somebody asked why I haven't been talking more about Grandmaster Jay, the NFAC. Why I'm not. And it's simply because Grandmaster Jay, up until this point, has been going through hearings. Okay, and hearings decide situations. Hearings, they decide circumstances. If you can have bail, if you can't have bail, if you can leave the state, if you can't leave the state, if you can broadcast on the internet, if you can't broadcast on the internet. Those are all done in hearings. Okay. What's coming up is a trial, and a trial is totally different. A trial is about guilt or innocence. All right. Not situations. So I'm not going to be talking about Grandmaster Jay or the NFAC or anything like that leading up to his trial coming up in April. All right. So you're not going to hear a lot of mentions unless he wants to come on for some reason, or unless a representative comes on, or unless Watchdog gets back with me on something that's major. It's just, it's, you don't, nobody want, how should I say this? When you have a platform like this, you don't want it to be, you don't want it to be in any way harmful to anyone, especially someone that is trying to seek a fair trial. Okay. So no, I haven't been running old footage, and I haven't been, and I'm not going to be doing that. Okay. Just so you know who you are that emailed me about it. And that's why I'm not talking about, Grandmaster Jay or anything like, it's nothing like, am I trying to distance? No, not at all. It's just they got stuff going on, and the last thing they need is an interview request from somebody right before he's going to trial, because anything you say can and will be used against you. So, it's common sense, in my opinion. Now, Donald Trump has a lot of potential legal situations looming. Yet he keeps coming out, and he keeps talking, and he keeps talking, and he keeps talking. And I think his handlers are trying to limit him to just talking just a few times a month instead of on a daily basis, with the exception of his hardest core followers, because he's going to keep saying things, and eventually there's an old saying, if you give a dog enough rope, it will hang itself. So they're given, the reason the walls haven't totally closed in yet, they're still giving Trump rope to say some things that can still be used against him. So anybody that's involved in trials or court or any kind of legal situation, stay off the internet. So I've rambled on here for a few minutes. Hi, Sissy. How are you? What's up, Lord Renzo? It's been a while. When you get on here and you talk about things that you give your impressions of things you see happening, especially things that are happening unnecessarily, that are so destructive, sometimes even down to the very soul of humanity, it takes a toll on you. So I had to take a few weeks off a couple of months back, and we're gradually building the show back up because we're heading into a tumultuous 2022. So yeah, it's been a while for some of us. I haven't seen some of you. You haven't seen me on here because I wasn't on a regular basis. That's changed. And basically, it's the same thing we've been doing. Only you'll notice that I don't have many advertisements. Suddenly, my content is not conducive to advertisers, and we're okay with that. But it's just things are going to change as we head into 2022. I'm afraid, and I'm afraid we're heading into a dark year, and it makes it even more necessary for those, and man, sometimes it is tough to try to be positive and to be, to believe that there's still goodness, that there's still hope, that there are still all the positive things that we always cling to. Sometimes it's tough. for everybody. Uh, and it's okay when it's tough for you, take a break for a few minutes or a day or whatever it is, but don't stop being a light. Don't stop doing the right things. Don't stop talking about things that are significant and that don't get talked about. Hello, Thunder. Hello, Pat. Um, Hello to everybody out there watching that's not in the live chat, and hello to everybody out there that's watching on the rerun. And please leave a comment down below. Again, if you haven't subscribed, or if you've unsubscribed, I'm back. In case it's been a minute, because it has been. And we've had some good episodes. Last night's episode with Chris, again, something I think everybody ought to watch and at least consider, because there's some things in there that a couple of bad moves, a couple of wrong moves, and a whole bunch of dominoes start tumbling, and all of a sudden we're in a bad situation. And these nights were originally supposed to be about talking about UFOs and Bigfoot and championship wrestling or whatever came up, but a lot of serious stuff has been and continues to happen, and issues that aren't getting addressed again. And a week ago tonight we had Summer Dickerson on, and always nice to have Summer on. Summer and I've known each other now for a couple of years, since the summer before last summer in Louisville. And I mentioned UFOs and extraterrestrials. I saw another story that from somewhere in space, there's an object that is emitting radio beams every 18 minutes, like precision, every 18 minutes, and they're not sure what it is. So is there something out there trying to communicate with us, and we don't have the capacity to understand what they're trying to do, or is it a lighthouse out there saying to some other life form that, hey, this is the direction to come? Who knows? So anybody have any questions? Anybody have anything you want to talk about? Anybody have, if anybody want to come on, let me here, let me post this. I hope it works. There we go. If anybody wants to hop on here and join for a couple of minutes, the link's up there to do so. It's the People's Forum. And again, because I took a fairly extended amount of time off, a lot of viewers disappeared. And also, before I took some time off, NFAC, the NFAC watchdog group, we exposed some people that were doing some fraudulent activities and trying to take advantage of members of the Black community. And when we first did that, a lot of people got really mad at me, and I lost a whole bunch of viewers. I'm okay with that because we did the right thing. All right. And, I mean, I make like $22 a month doing this. So it's not about money. All right. It's about doing the right thing. It's about talking about things that don't get talked about. And the People's Platform is going to become a place where it gives a voice to those that wouldn't normally have a voice. So, what is going on with all the empty spaces at the grocery store? Thunder asks. It's odd that you would bring that up, because here in the area I live in, the grocery store is Kroger, and Kroger's predominant around the Middle East of our country, the Mideastern part of the country. And there wasn't any meat in the meat counter, or the fresh meat counter. and there were some. It was sporadic. It wasn't like a lot. Some odd things. Spices. There were some spices that they didn't have anything, and I know what you're talking about. Empty spaces. It's not like total empty shelves everywhere, but certain things, and there wasn't any milk. And so I went to the deli and got like a thing of ham salad, which I do, just about every time I go to Kroger. And I asked, what's up with the empty shelves? And she said, I don't know, nobody's talking about it. So um, I don't know. For a long time we heard, well, it's the supply chain, that well, that was a couple of months back, and they're starting to get all that worked out. So I think it's probably controlling products. Eventually, our choices are going to eventually narrow. This is my prediction. Okay, our choices are going to eventually narrow, and if we get into conflicts, whether we get into a conflict within our own country with ourselves, or if we get into a conflict with Russia, China, or both, those things are going to happen much faster. But um, I can't put a finger on it, Thunder, and say this is exactly what's going on. I can just kind of speculate that I think it's about controlling, because if you control, the more you control supply, the more you increase demand. The more demand increases, the more prices increase. The more prices increase, the more profits increase. And our society is based on profits, not based on people. Summer, we were just talking about you. Thank you again for coming on last Thursday. I have not heard about the new barrier they put up around the White House. I know they were putting one up at the end of the Trump administration, and I think it was actually when they were starting to put the inauguration stuff up when they were talking about it. But I haven't been paying attention to it. I'll check in on it. Thank you, Summer. And a lot of people judge Summer based on her story, and don't know Summer. Like I said, a couple of years back, I met Summer a couple of years back, and it's not like I've watched and we've interacted. And for those that don't judge Summer based upon not knowing her, because what she does is incredibly and incredibly important. She touches a lot of people's lives, and a lot of people just are negative for whatever reason and get over it. All right. Thunder, I saw an article saying that the U.S. lost 20 war games in a row to China and Russia. It's going to be a problem, but I wonder, will it be abroad or at home? Can you make some suggestions how to get ready? Chris and I actually talked in last night's episode about and I wrote, I showed this last night, and you probably can't see it, but because of the lighting, there you go. But I jotted down just an outline of what I wanted to talk to Chris about. And at the very end of it, I put, and I've got in brackets conspiracy theory, because I knew when I said this, it's going to sound like a conspiracy theory. But we never got to that, because before I could say it, he opened up with it. He said, don't think that China and Russia haven't talked about coming together to take out the United States. Um, you know, in our country, we are kind of um, what we're taught is controlled, and a lot of things are controlled, and what we're taught is not always truthful. Um, for example, the actual size of the United States, the actual size of North America, the United States and Canada, um, when we see it on a map, that size is inflated to make us look bigger in the world. We don't want to hear that, but it's actually true. And so when you see an actual map and it's laid out, the United States is much smaller than we might think it is, even though it's massive when you actually live here. Perspective of global, um, and a lot of the rest of the world is getting tired of us and has been getting tired of us. For we were the greatest thing since sliced bread during World War I and World War II, and then Vietnam and most recently Afghanistan. And Chris said this last night. Chris said, "Look, we were in a war in Afghanistan and they beat us, and we got beat with the greatest technology in the world, and we got beat by guys wearing pajamas and flip-flops." And of course, Russia got beat in Afghanistan before us, but that's neither here nor there. We did. And Chris also said, he also brought attention to the fact that what Osama bin Laden tried to do economically impact the United States. That was his plan. That's what he tried to do by attacking us and getting us to come bring all of our assets over to Afghanistan and Iraq. The hope was to drain us economically. All right, that was the plan. So it is totally feasible that China and Russia saw what bin Laden tried to do, and now are saying, let's do the same thing. Let's draw the United States into this war with us, Russia in the Ukraine, and China, you draw them into a war with you by invading Taiwan. Because the United States has promised to protect both of them. And NATO, they're not part of NATO, neither one of those groups. So it's not like we're guaranteed that all of our regular, normal, dependable allies would even line up. And it would be a prime opportunity to deplete American force, because we are so much more powerful than the rest of the world at the moment when it comes to the amount of weaponry and the type of weaponry. But that can all get compromised very quickly, because a lot of it is, or hell, 98% of it's computerized. It's not about people performing above and beyond and heroic. It's about circuits and motherboards and passcodes and backdoors and viruses, and it's not our world war. So my concern, and this is a long answer to the question that Thunder asked, will it be here or abroad? We will get drawn abroad. And when that happens, when we get drawn abroad, we are vulnerable for a coup. And I've got a book out. My third novel's out, American Land of the Greed, Home of the Grave. And I allude to all this in the book. And I wrote this book I started it actually in 2015. So 7 years ago now. And the book's worth a read. It really is. It's a good story. It's entertaining, but there's a whole bunch of stuff under the surface for those um, that care. It's kind of like John Steinbeck meets George Orwell with some Studs Terkel, and then me. So I highly recommend it. My concern would be Thunder, back to the conflict between us. China, and again, our view of how big we are compared to the rest of the world is not actually true from what we see on maps and what we can see, our perspective. And China and Russia are a lot bigger than we are. When they're put together, they're a lot bigger than we are, and quite frankly, have a lot more people, potential assets, if you would. And my concern is if it's not going to be more than likely a conventional ground war where there's 100,000 troops against 100,000 troops. It's going to be a giant game of chicken as to who's going to nuke who first. So we have to keep it abroad so that it doesn't come here. And there are going to be those, and they may be right. There are going to be those that say, "Oh, the United States military is so great that we never ever have anything to fear." We just lost in Afghanistan to people wearing pajamas and flip-flops. I think you're right, Thunder. We were given a false sense of security. The veneer is coming off. We see how weak we've actually become stores, empty power grid and shambles. We can't make anything for ourselves. We got fat and complacent. And that may be the comment of 2022 so far, Thunder. Hello, Sergeant Dobie. Max Braun, a white man. Well, I'm going to take that as a compliment, sir. For some reason, that Max Braun, for some reason that name's registering in the memory bank files. Awesome. Haru. Yeah, so cyber shutdown. What do you say, T-Rex? Jiggling the wires of us. Cyber shutdown. Yeah, I totally anticipate. I just lost my laptop. My laptop finally died. And one morning, the night before, it was working great. I shut it off. The next morning, it wouldn't power back up. And it had definitely, it had died. And I totally anticipate one morning, or maybe midday, or maybe mid evening. I totally anticipate at some point that everything's going to shut down cyber wise. That somebody's going to pull the plug because the information that should be coming out there's so many different scenarios, and I don't want to get into any of that at the moment. We'll do that earlier in another show. Water, definitely. If you're going to store things, number one is water. We talk a lot about controlling natural resources, and the people that control the water will eventually control life. And that sounds kind of dire, but that's where we're letting ourselves go to, sadly. Um, Found out during Hurricane Katrina, you can't depend on the government to come save you when you're on your own. No, no, especially if there's a coup and the government's collapsing. Um, there's so many different things that could happen. And when I say prepare, I'm not recommending that, you become totally paranoid and try to survive for 25 years in a bunker. There are people that are doing that, and more power to them. And I hope they're wrong, and it never gets to that situation. If it does get that bad, they're gonna be right. So, yeah. Um, I recommend you have 30 days of just what you can't live without. 30 days worth of water, 30 days worth of beans, rice, boxed cereal, Pop Tarts. They're sealed up. Anything that's sealed up, then it's going to last you. Whatever it is you like to eat. I've got canned. I don't have I'm here by myself. There's me. There's Doofus dog. There's Doofus cat. Um, I don't have a massive stockpile of stuff. The biggest thing I've stockpiled is food, in the form of canned meats and water. Um, I hope we don't end up in a war summer. But there are so many, and again, the wrong move, even if it's an intentional bad move by an aggressor to us, or a wrong move by us, or there are just so many places where something bad could happen, whether it's intentional or unintentional, that sets off a series of events where we are at war. Um, my biggest fear is we go to war with each other. We have a civil war, and that's my absolute biggest fear. But any war is a bad war, and war ought to be a last resort, not an economic tool. And again, Chris and I talked a lot about that last night. A lot of times it's all about natural resources, taking over. You go back and look at World War II. Japan was upset with the United States because we quit selling them coal, oil, and steel. And we cut off their supply with other sources. So we were bleeding them economically. And that's the biggest weapon anybody has, is economics. And we in this country, somebody mentioned we've become fat and complacent. We have, and we've let ourselves become divided, and allow wedges to create differences that are actually, in the grand scheme of things, differences that are so small, but they become create such wide gaps that we forget how much we have in common as humankind. That's my word for 2022, humankind. We forget how much we have in common as humankind because we get focused on all the differences that are prodded at us and put upon us. Hashgraph has only government coveted patent grant licensing deal to head up blockchain tokenized exchange transactions over 6,000 FDIC centralized flat. Okay. I is anybody out there? If you are a if you are a if you partake in cryptocurrency, because I don't even know what I wouldn't say broker, or I guess it's trader. Are you a if you're invested in, or you trade, or you know about cryptocurrency? I'd like to have you on next Wednesday night. Okay. So email americandufus at gmail.com if you know about cryptocurrency, and I'd like for you to come on and talk about it. Yeah, you know what? I only spent, gosh, what did I spend? I only spent like, I think it was 5 or 6 days in New Orleans, Louisiana, and traveling out of New Orleans to other areas. It was back when I was involved in politics, and uh, it's a great area, and there are areas like New Orleans, or not New Orleans, but like Louisiana. There are going to be areas that if the if the poop hits the fan, if you know how to grow your own food, if you have some skills, if you paid attention to the elderly when you were young, and they taught you things that aren't even thought about now, possibly. If you can be self-sufficient, if you can't be self-sufficient, I guess would be the better way of starting it. Because if you can't be self-sufficient, you know you got a shot at being okay if you're in certain areas. If you can't be self-sufficient, it's time to start. What's a good word? Clan. Time to start clanning up. No, clan. That's a horrible word. And it's sad that white power made white supremacists, white racists made the word clan a bad thing, because when you go back to the beginning of culture, the idea of a clan, the idea of a clan for survival, was a very positive thing, and a lot of family names derived from those various clans. CLAN, not KLAN. CLAN, clan. But organize, I guess, instead of saying, form a clan, form a group, like-minded people, and just have a plan that, push comes to shove, if it's as dark as it's going to get, we need to get together and as a group decide what we're going to do, where we're going to go. Try to find somebody that's got some medical experience, somebody who knows how to grow food, somebody that knows how to navigate, knows directions, because again, there are so many different things that could possibly happen. One of my books is about the caldera, the giant mass of lava underneath Yellowstone National Park, and how it's been 600,000 years. It's about 200,000 years past time for that to erupt. If that erupted, that puts a whole different spin on everything. If we're suddenly surprised, we get bombed tonight by China and Russia combined nuclear weapons raining down on us, we don't even know it's coming, and all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom. That's something else. So you can't prepare for everything. So you prepare in general. You look at water, you look at food, you look at people, having a small group of people around you. They may initially, it may be from 10, 15, 20 miles away, but you just organize and you talk and you just say, God forbid, but should this happen, here's what we should do. Otherwise, if you find yourself alone, man, it's going to be tough to survive. Going to be tough to survive. I like that. And yeah, that's a great term. Thank you for sharing that. Mutual assistant group, a MAG. That's a great term to use, a mutual assistant group. Yeah, stock up on cheap medical supplies and Thunder Dollar Store, the Dollar Tree, Dollar General. Study what wild plants you can eat. Morel mushrooms are an incredible delicacy, and we used to find them all the time, and we took them for granted. And there are a lot of things that that you can eat. It's not necessarily the most tastiest things, but we might have allowed ourselves to sleep as a society to a point where we might be suddenly pressed into survival. I sure hope not, but it's better to at least be aware of the possibility and think about what you could and should and would do than to just totally put your head in the sand and say it's never going to happen. Okay. Thank you, Sergeant Dolby. Hey, thank you, everybody. Been on here about 45 minutes. I don't like to do too long of shows because when you do the reruns, if you get up near an hour, people don't spend an hour watching. And, I totally get that. So I'm going to go ahead and get off of here for tonight. I am going to have a little football show on Friday. We generally take Saturday and Sunday off unless something breaks. And then Monday we'll be back on, and we'll start next week. Monday will be, in case you missed it, things happened over the weekend that should have been talked about that aren't. Tuesday we'll just have some stories. Wednesday, I hope to have a guest, and I hope it's one of you that if you're into cryptocurrency, you'll come on. And then takes us back to next Thursday when there'll be another edition of the People's Platform. Thank you so very much for watching. Again, I love you all. Thank you all for commenting over here, and wish you nothing but peace and blessings. Hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell, hit the like, leave a comment if you're watching on the reruns. Again, everybody in the comments live, thank you all, and wish you nothing but the best. Wish you nothing but peace. Shalom, salam. If you're a fellow Christian, blessings in the name of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And it's the American Doofus Show. Don't be a doofus. Love y'all. Thank you.